from the bar area to attend. Started. I would like to thank all the volunteers that helped put this together tonight, especially Don Mitchell, Marianne Bozen, and Steve Ballage. They were on the committee. But a great big thanks to Christina Knightsey-Troike and Dan Troike. They really were the backbone of this event, and it's because of them it turned out so great as it did. So thank you, and thank you to all of our sponsors tonight. Thank you, Joe Bozen. He's doing our music tonight and donating the mic. I'd like to say thank you to him too. And most importantly, I'd like to thank Kono's Farm and the family. So Zachary, Laura, Bernice, and Walt Kono. Thank you so much for letting us put this wonderful evening on tonight on your farm. And they're going to be having their corn maze, so if you're available next month, come on by and join them for their pumpkin farm thing. At this time, I'd like to introduce Steve Ballage. He's going to do the recognition of elected officials.
Again, thank you everybody for showing up here. And we got a long list of people, but they all need to be recognized because at least they showed up here. You know, so you got to give them credit for that, sticking up for our country. Pam Myers, Homer Township Supervisor. Sharon Sweet, Village of Homer Glen Trustee. Yvonne Bolton, candidate for state rep in the 98th District. Catherine Peretta, Homer 15 Committeeman. George Yukich, Homer Glen Trustee. Ted K. Janis, Homer Glen Trustee. Margaret Sabo, Homer Glen Trustee. Samantha Knightsky, my buddy over here, Lockport High School District. Myself, Steve Ballage, Will County Board. Paul Kopis, the Sheriff. Doing a great job, Paul.
Yeah, Dad, I'm leaving, right?
Yeah, you know what? You gotta be nice to the Sheriff, huh? Christina Knightsky, Homer Township Trustee. She did a good job putting this together. Dan Troike, that's her husband, different name, but he did a real good job with her putting this together. He's a Homer Township collector. Barb Adams, she's a JJC trustee. That's somebody we need to always remember, JJC. They tax us too. Herb Brooks, he's the Speaker of the County Board. He's a good guy. He actually agrees with me some of the time. Margot McDermott, Will County Board. Annette Parker, Lockport Township Commissioner for the Park District. Jim Daly, the mayor, he left already. He had another engagement. Mike Frizzalone, he's the guy that sits next to me on the county board. Great guy, got a member of both for him. Julie or Juliana Bolani, you're going to hear a lot about her. She's from Americans for Prosperity. Where are you at, Julie? There she is. She's going to be working in our area here for the next couple months. Don Labriola, Mokina Village Trustee. And Vicki Bozen, Homer Township Trustee. Thank you.
Okay, a lot of you people are probably wondering what this table represents. I was reading a book by Lee Greenwood. The name of it was Does God Still Bless the USA? I read a chapter in there about our heroes of today. And in this it talks about a captain, actually. So I'm going to give you a little background. on the table and the captain, and then we are going to, what we're doing is we're bringing this out to the whole community. So, in February 1966, a U.S. Navy captain, Gerald Coffey, guided his jet over North Vietnam. His jet came under fire, and immediately after he ejected from his plane, he was captured on the ground. Captain Coffey was taken to the notorious Hoi Ninh Hilton prison, where he would endure the next 7 years of routine torture and solitary confinement. Then one day in 1973, it was all over. One of the longest held prisoners of Vietnam War, Captain Coffey was returned to his family and his country with his honor intact. Today, Captain General Coffey is a sought-after speaker who shares his experiences and motivates others to go beyond survival. During his speeches, he talks about his table setting and honoring prisoners of war and the missing in action. The small table was set for one, symbolizing one prisoner against his oppressors. The white tablecloth was symbolizing the purity of these men to respond to their country's call. A single rose in a vase represented the family and loved ones awaiting his return. A red ribbon tied to the vase was a same worn by thousands who demand a proper accounting for a missing. The bread plate held a slice of lemon and a reminder of the bitter fate. Also, there was salt on the plate, symbolic of a family's tears as they wait in hope. The glass on the table is inverted because those who are missing could not raise the glass and toast with us. And the chair at the table was left empty. We decided to expand our table for tonight's event to give recognition to all those who sacrificed their lives on September 11th and the many days after. Each item on the table represents the people that made up the community and that make up the United States. May we honor each and every one of those fellow Americans. As Captain Coffey concluded his presentation, he honored those who served. Just as Captain Coffey, I ask you to raise your glass, and I will repeat his words. Remember all of you who served them and called them comrades, who depended on their might and aid and relied on them, for surely they have not forsaken you. And toast all those soldiers all over the world. Please raise your glass to all those soldiers around the world and those who died on September 11th and have served our country there the many days after. At this time, I would like to introduce tonight's MC. Please put your hands together for a morning drive talk show host, WLS 890 AM, Dan Croft.
Thank you, Samantha, and thank you all for allowing me to be part of this tonight. It's really a beautiful, thoughtful ceremony put together. You had great speakers, so it's really my pleasure to be here. I know politicians took a little bit of a hammering during the speeches, and that's generally deserved. But we're gonna turn that just a little bit, because I think one of the things that we understand in terms of honoring the sacrifice that those who have gone before us have provided, honoring the fallen, and that doesn't include just military, that doesn't include just first responders, it also includes ordinary Americans, like, for example, a 32-year-old software salesman named Todd, who said, let's roll on United 93 13 years ago. Ordinary Americans acting in a heroic fashion in that moment when heroism is called for. And that deserves to be honored. And the way that's honored is by what you all are doing here tonight with the Homer Founders Club and this community and Will County, the larger community of Will County, which is being one of those platoons of our representative republic that Edmund Burke wrote about. And the Republican platoons of America, small r, Republican platoons of America, will always defeat the terrorist cells of Islamic jihadists. And that's what we're here to celebrate. And when you see communities get together like you have gotten together 13 years after those events on 9/11, it should give you a buoyed spirit about what this country still is and still will be against whatever threat comes our way, including the threat that was outlined by the President of the United States yesterday. And so we have our platoon leaders, or aspiring platoon leaders, with us tonight. These are candidates who are running for federal, state, and local positions. This is important. In our representative republic form of government, we need people of intelligence and commitment, common sense, and also courage in these times to serve our interests. And I think we have examples of that running for office at every level. And so I want to give each of them a turn at the wheel here to explain their perspective on this day, but also their rationale for running for office, their interest in serving in the spirit that we honor today. And I'll start by introducing Sharon Brannigan, who's running for Congress in the 3rd Congressional District against Representative Dan Lipinski. Sharon.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much all for having me here tonight. It's a really lovely evening. I really do appreciate it. I am Sharon Brannigan, and I'm the 3rd Congressional District candidate, Republican candidate, running against Dan Lipinski. Tonight, I prepared a speech for 9/11 and the remembrances about that. And so I'm going to continue with that. I did leave my cards on the table for everyone to learn a little bit about me and the things that I stand for, which are pretty much the antithesis of Mr. Lipinski. You can, as a base, to know. But today I want to tribute to 9/11 and that tragic day. This day is a day that changed us Americans forever. Like you, I remember where I was when the moments of tragedy occurred. It's one of the moments in time that freezes in your memory, and the motions you go through shortly after that are slow and deliberate. For me, like so many others, disbelief that this act could be intentional was how I felt myself walking around, looking into other people's eyes, searching. Can it be so? Really, can it be so? Oh, the innocence before. This morning when I got up and turned on the news, the memories of that day flooded back as if no time passed between then and now. The fear and pain soon swallowed up by people running to help. People that their job was to help, now gone, with their loved ones left behind to bear the burdens of the joys or their lives would continue to carry on. This test for freedom-loving people cannot deter us from that which we hold dear in the United States. It won't deter us from the freedoms that we cherish as long as there is a breath in any American. It's in our DNA, freedom, and that's why I'm running. So thank you very much again for having me, and you can find the little information that I have on the cards. I'll be around tonight so you can ask me any kind of questions on a personal level, and again, thanks so much.
Our next candidate is a candidate for state legislative office, state representative, and that is Yvonne Bolt.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvonne Bolton, for those of you that don't know me. On this special day, what I'd like to tell all of you is that what is most important to me is that on the remembrance of this special day is that I am so grateful to be living in the most blessed country in this world. I am so grateful that my father brought me here as a very small child. I think that at its very worst, the United States is the best country to be in. And I think that we as Americans sometimes forget that. I, for one, am very grateful and thankful. And I think that is probably the biggest reason that propelled me to do what I'm doing, to run for this State House office. Because I want my children, my grandchildren, to live and to be grateful as I am. To wake up in the morning and be thankful. And for their children and grandchildren. And on that note, let's just be, I'm sorry I'm saying thankful, I think that's the cough medicine that I took this before getting here. I guess I'm just overwhelmed with Thanksgiving for living in the best nation, the best country in the world. On that note, I'm going to say thank you, folks, and God bless America.
We have another candidate for state legislative office, not running against Yvonne, except different districts, and this is State Representative candidate Margo McDermott.
Thanks, Dan. My name is Margo McDermott, and I am a candidate for state rep in District 37, which is Frankfort, Mokena, New Lenox, the southern parts of Homer, Tinley, and Orland. Our current rep is Renee Kozel, and she's going to retire, and she asked me to step up and run in her place. So let me tell you very, very briefly who I am, why I'm running, what you can expect from me. And I want to say thank you so much to Homer. I feel that the event here tonight really filled my heart, that empty place in my heart on September 11th with warmth and with hope and with comfort. It was a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. Thank you. As I said, my name is Margo McDermott. I've lived out in this area for 36 years. Since I was married, we moved out here right then. We've raised our 2 children. They also are married college graduates working in their careers. I spent 30 years as a lawyer for Amoco and then spent time as the Frankfort Township Clerk, and right now I'm on the Will County Board. But my very first political memory was helping my dad run for library president in LaGrange. I can remember being a school-age kid, folding papers, stuffing envelopes, and literally walking door to door with our wagon with his campaign literature in it. So this is in my blood. The idea that that a family should serve the community has been with me from my earliest days and is motivating me now to run for state rep. What can you expect from me when I get to Springfield? I think that we have a lot of really difficult issues to tackle. One of them is jobs. At the rate we're going, it'll take 44 more years to recover the amount of jobs that we've lost in the Great Recession. We can do better than that. I'd like to be part of reducing our tax burden, letting businesses know they're welcome to come back, letting people know that they're welcome to stay. We have one person leaving every 10 minutes right now. That can't continue. I want to be part of that change. Another issue that we need to look at are taxes. As I said before, we can't double down on more taxes. We're already suffering. We gave a week of our pay. Working people gave another week of their pay to the state, and what happened? Nothing. But that wasn't enough. They want more. So I will stand up. And we have 3 other members of the Will County Board here to testify. I will stand up. You know I will. And they can't deny it here. So I hope that I've had the opportunity to tell you a little bit about who I am, why I'm running, what I'll do for you when you get there. I did pass out some materials on your tables, and if you can talk to me afterwards, see if you're in my district and what other specific questions you have for me. Thank you so much for creating this wonderful event and hosting us here tonight. Thank you.
Our next candidate is a candidate for local office, and I have to tell you, I am always stunned at the number of people who want to run to serve on the same board as Steve Ballage. It is shocking to me. But Annette Parker is running for Will County Board, and she's playing her tonight. Annette Parker.
I really wish I was just playing her, but unfortunately this is real. My name is Annette Parker, and I'm the Republican candidate for running for Will County Board, District 9. And I, like Margot, agree with her. This is in my blood. My mom did find pictures of me picketing with my grandmother when I was about 5 years old, so I think this is something that I was meant to do. For the last 4 years, I've been serving as a commissioner on the Lockport Township Park Board. During those years, we have kept and maintained a balanced budget with surplus, and we have succeeded without raising taxes. Even though taxes have not been raised, we continue to serve the residents of Lockport Township with an outstanding recreational and educational programs. I would like to take that same experience and bring it to the Will County Board. I understand the challenges of juggling career, family, and budget, and can relate to everyone's frustration. Let's face it, I don't want my taxes raised any more than you do. Lastly, I just want to touch on how appropriate it is speaking to you today of all days, 9/11. The American values and ideologies are crumbling away before us and need to be protected. We need to protect our freedom and our liberties, and it's time to take personal responsibility. As a county board member, I will stand up for those rights and all the people of Will County. So on November 4th, I appreciate your vote. Vote Republican, and please vote for Annette Parker. Thank you.
And our last candidate tonight, we were actually going to have a little bit of a conversation between the 2 candidates for Will County Sheriff. Mike Kelly was invited to participate. He chose not to. So the last candidate you'll hear from tonight is Ken Kopis, candidate for Will County Sheriff. A familiar name, but no offense, Paul, perhaps a new generation of leadership for the Sheriff's Office, you know, because you're old. So Ken Kopis, Will County Sheriff candidate.
Thanks, Dan. Dan actually volunteered to stand in for my opponent. And if you listen to Dan in the morning, I think I made the right choice by saying, I'll just talk tonight, okay? But thank you. I want to thank the Founders Club for putting this on and giving us an opportunity. I didn't prepare a 9/11 speech because I thought I was going to be talking to my opponent tonight about the issues that face the Sheriff's Office. But I also want to acknowledge a couple of other people in the room, if I could. Could the veterans stand up? If you're a veteran, could you please stand up? I just want to thank you for your service. And if you're a police officer or a firefighter or any EMS personnel, could you stand up as well too? I want to, obviously I'm standing already, but I want to thank you. They're all at my table. How'd that work out? Folks, I'm not a politician. I've never run for office before. I didn't grow up in a very political family. I grew up in a very blue-collar family. I was blessed. I had great parents. They taught me well. they believed in us and they taught us to believe in ourselves. I got the opportunity to go to college. I have a law enforcement administration degree from Western Illinois University. And then I was fortunate enough to join one of the best police agencies in the country, the Illinois State Police, in 1983. And I patrolled this area of the county before any of this really existed, except Betty Your Farm, of course, was here back in '83, and I got the opportunity to visit with Betty earlier tonight. And I saw the changes that came about. And my career with the state police, I was very blessed. I always say I was in the right place at the right time. And a lot of people say, well, you know, you have to prepare yourself for those opportunities. And I had the opportunities. I moved up in the organization. I became a sergeant. I became a master sergeant. I became a lieutenant. And with about 16 years on the job, I actually was promoted to the rank of captain, a district commander up in the Rockford area. And from that, I became a zone commander, which encompassed 13 counties in northwest Illinois. And then I went to Springfield, and I worked in Springfield for 3 years. And I lived out of a hotel five nights a week. And my family lived in Rockford. But it was what my department wanted me to do. And I got the opportunity to come home in 2005, and home was Joliet, District 5, where I came back as the district commander, and where I then eventually retired in 2009. And then I got a call from the current sheriff, and he wanted my help. And you guys know Paul. That wasn't probably an easy call for him to make, to bring in an outsider. But he believed in me, and I believed in the Will County Sheriff's Office. It was one of the best decisions I think I made, because now I'm a proud member of one of the finest police organizations in the nation, the Will County Sheriff's Office. And when I joined that office, I never intended to run for sheriff, despite what some people might think. Actually, I tried to talk the current sheriff into running one more time. And he turned the tables on me and said, you know, with your background, Ken, and your experience, you're a perfect fit for this position. You've got the credentials, you've got the education, you've got the experience. I've got 41 years in law enforcement. Ken, you've only got 31. You've got a lot to learn yet, he said. I'm a rookie, according to him. Now, I'm not going to get up here and talk about my opponent. He could be here himself. If I were going to talk about my opponent, I would probably say something to the effect that by today's standards, he doesn't even have the educational requirements to apply for the job of deputy. But I'm not going to talk about my opponent. That's not what I'm here to do today. If I were going to talk about him, though, I would probably talk about the fact that in his 25 years experience with the sheriff's office, he's risen to the rank of sergeant. And I applaud him for that. It's a very admirable thing. But when I look at his career, I don't know what he's done. I don't know what he's taken on. I don't know what challenges he's ever accepted and decided to make a difference within the sheriff's office. He shows up every day. He works for me. So I know he shows up every day because I look at his time card. But I'm not here to talk about my opponent. I don't want to do that. He had an opportunity to be here today. The sheriff of this county, the top law enforcement officer, this is a CEO position. This is a $70 million budget, the largest budget that the county has. You've got to work with all the county board members. This isn't about politics. This is about professional law enforcement. This is about what you people in this community deserve. And you deserve somebody who has integrity, who has experience, who has the background to manage such a large agency and such a large budget. And if I were to talk about my opponent, but I'm not going to do that, but if I were, I would tell you he's never prepared a budget. He's never executed a budget. He's never had to do that. I've done that for almost 18 years of my professional life in law enforcement. So, enough said about why I'm not going to talk about my opponent. 9/11 to all of us was a watershed moment in our lives. I was in Rockford. I was a district commander. And I was getting dressed for work that morning. And my wife called me into the other room and said there's been a terrible accident. A plane just flew into one of the towers. And I came out, you know, half dressed. I wasn't quite all the way dressed yet. And I watched the second plane fly into that other tower. And I immediately knew that we were under attack. This country was under attack. Immediately. And for about the next 72 hours, I wasn't home with my family. Like many first responders, even though we didn't suffer that tragedy here in Illinois, we were prepared. We were planning. We were trying to figure out what it is we have to do. And if you remember that day, they landed every commercial flight in the United States, other than Air Force One. And in Rockford, we had an airport. And suddenly I found myself in charge of about 6 commercial airlines that had landed at the Rockford airport that day. And I never had a class on what do you do with 6 commercial jets full of passengers when they land in your backyard. But you adapt, you overcome, you think on your feet, and you build a coalition with your local law enforcement people and your elected officials, and you take care of the problem. And folks, that's the only other thing I'll leave you with tonight. Their timing's terrible. I was supposed to, maybe I'm running a little long here. But as a leader of the sheriff's office, you have to be a coalition builder. You've got to be able to work with our elected officials, with our law enforcement people, from all walks of life, regardless of the size of their police agency. You're the leader in law enforcement in this county. You're in charge of the largest law enforcement agency in this county. People look to you, and we have to have somebody competent at the helm of that department, folks. And I think that I am that person. So I thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak tonight. I wish it might have been a little more lively, but apparently the fireworks will do that for us. But again, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, servicemen, for your service, police officers, and all the public here tonight for coming out and celebrating this with us. Thank you and have a wonderful night. God bless you.
Thank you, Ken. And thank you to all of our speakers. I have one more request. I had someone just come up and give his own little speech. Can you help me bring up Luke?
Annette is running for County Board District 9. My mom just gave a speech and it was excellent. I'm proud and I love her very much, and I know she's going to win.
Thank you. Anyways, thank you everybody for coming tonight. We appreciate all of you showing up, our speakers, spectators, sponsors. Go and enjoy the fireworks, have a drink, have a wonderful evening.